All right, welcome everyone. This is Isabel, and the title of her presentation is Finding Strengths, My Weakness.
Hi. So, yep, I'm Isabel, obviously. So my project was definitely a process-intensive project, and I didn't really focus very much on making a final product because I was like doing such great learning and so much growing in Virginia when I was like going through this process of my POL. So instead of like having a final presentation, I'm just going to walk you all through the process that I went on and through this journey of growing that I've been having. So first I started with brainstorming and writing down like all of these things that I was working on that had kind of been illuminated through TBB, maybe some like weaknesses or flaws. And I had like a huge brainstorm list, like maybe 5 pages long, like all these things. It seemed really random at first. I didn't really like necessarily see the correlation between all of my scattered notes. But eventually I was able to see that there was one common theme that went through everything. And that was that I care what other people think about me. And that usually comes in the form of needing or like always trying to seek out attention from other people instead of just like for myself. And I will give like 2 stories of 2 different examples of like when I am getting attention and when I'm not getting attention. So I'm going to start with the not. In our last homestay, which was in Toacaso, a small town in central Ecuador, the people were very different from the people that I had experienced on almost every other homestay that I had been on during this gap year. And they were a little bit more timid and shy and a little bit more closed off. And they were still extremely warm and welcoming, and they were very nice to me, but they weren't as enthusiastic about getting to know me as I was used to. And that kind of like made me feel a little bit uneasy, maybe like unsure of myself. These are things I'm realizing after the fact. So it kind of pushed me to have some engagement problems, and like my relationships with my homestays and like people in TBB really suffered because of my insecurities. And it got me into like an insecure cycle, which was like I felt insecure, I acted closed off and mean, people didn't want to be around me, and so I felt more insecure. And it was just like a big circle that I kept getting deeper into. I started like disliking my host mom for no reason. Just a lot of bad stuff. So yeah, clearly that like when I'm not getting attention, it just like makes me feel insecure, like not good, blah, blah. That's obviously not good. So on the other hand, when I am getting attention, the story and area like where I got the most attention was our first homestay in Ecuador, which was Chone, and it was on the coast. And these people were like, I'd say like the most extroverted. They're like clones of me, basically, I would say. So it was like the perfect place for me. I was super engaged. When I would walk into school, which is like where we worked, I would have a constant group of 30 around me, asking me questions. My weekends were fully booked with plans, like so many friend groups. It was so awesome. But I got in like my confidence cycle, which is like confidence, open and happy, people want to be around me, more confidence. And then I just like get super nervous about it because I'm like, oh no, like this is gonna end. This has to end. Like this feels so good. So I'm like, I'm gonna end it. So you can. and that's like, I'm like super dramatic, and then I create like a lot of drama, as everyone that knows me well can see. And that is usually, as I discovered through this process of like learning more about myself, push people away as a protection mechanism so they can't push me away first. And this has happened in like a lot of my relationships, acquaintances with my family. I like test people. So like in the beginning of TBB, for example, I was like super like my most radical self, just like I'm gonna get here at some point, so accept me, be my friend if you can take this, and if you can't, like stay away. And that actually worked. I've also learned a lot from like the fights that I've had in the past, and kind of like these negative bad emotions that I've had have been the times that I've like been growing the most. So I don't necessarily like shy away from those fights and those moments. I kind of like lean into them because they've been like good opportunities for me in the past. So yeah, clearly like both sides of it aren't really working well for me. Like, I don't do well with the needing attention from others. So I kind of started thinking like, how do I validate myself instead? And I was having a meeting with my PLs, and one of them mentioned that maybe I should talk about my strengths. And I was like, what strengths? So I like started a list, and opposed to my like 5 pages of negatives, I got 3 bullet points of strengths that I have about myself. And one of them was like that I'm open about myself. So like, I don't even know. Anyway, my project kind of really transformed into talking about my strengths because I realized like just how uncomfortable I was with that. So talking about this is like really new for me. It's really uncomfortable. I am very aware of and comfortable with my flaws and my work areas, as you can probably just see, as I like just told you all. I don't really know all of it. But with my strengths, it's like something that makes me feel really uncomfortable and awkward, but I'm gonna try, so bear with me. My first one that I came up with when I did like a little bit of a deeper brainstorm is that I'm confident. So even though I do have these insecurities, I do not see confidence as a black and white issue. I think everyone's like a dynamic person with confidence and insecurities. And I think it's like really good that I'm able to feel confident and see my flaws and still be able to accept myself. And I do believe that I am hard on myself because I believe in myself. So a good story about this of when I like had core confidence and really like validated myself was in Thailand. And it was in our first homestay named Donjeong. It was like a very small farming community. And the people there didn't speak English, and I like spoke 5 words of Thai, like 4 about food, 1 I could say farm. So like, yep, intensive conversations, I'd say. I also heard Thai culture was like very indirect, and that like if they want something of me, I won't necessarily know because they're never going to be like blah blah blah. So I just like had no external clues about how my host mom felt about me. I had no idea. Like no matter how she acted or what she said, I couldn't understand her speaking, but I also didn't understand her actions. So, but regardless, or however, whatever. I had an amazing relationship with her, and we were so close, and I always decided to go to the farm with her alone, even though like the PLs told me I would never have to work by myself. I kind of just like chose to. I would cook with her all meals because I just like really enjoyed spending time with her. And it was the time in the trip that I definitely felt the best about myself. And I was just so happy around her, and I had the confidence to make jokes with her, like with my face, because I couldn't and so yeah, I had the confidence to assume that she would take me in the right way and that like we had a good relationship. And looking back on that, I think I realized that it was because there was no way to get external validation in that moment with my host mom. And it was a time that I really could, for the first time ever, validate myself in a situation. And I resorted to confidence, which made me really happy to like think about and look back on. And I realized that I totally can do this. And it's not like, I just need to like cut out thinking so much about other people and like really focus more on myself like I was in those moments. So my next one that I came up with was that I'm honest and open about myself and I'm able to be vulnerable. So I think that like really helps me to be a role model to other people. As I've seen like some people on the trip really struggling to open up about themselves, I think they can see that like I'm very open about my like flaws and insecurities, yet people in general see me as a confident person. So I think that balance is something that I can like show. I'm also really not judgmental because I don't judge myself, and like I can't, because and in understanding more and more about myself, I just like find that judging myself is not productive. So in turn, I really like try very hard, and I think I'm pretty good at not judging other people. I'm also like really approachable and easy to talk to and easy to get close with because I will open up, and then people will like be more willing to like share what they're thinking because they understand me better. And I'm always constantly able to work to better myself. And all of these things that this like thing of being vulnerable, all of these like subcategories that I just talked about really help me to like achieve my goal of being a connective person. And that's like something that's really important and great to me. My next one is that I'm a good friend. And I think that that's because I do have like a genuine compassion and care for people. And I'm really able to like connect with people because I care about them and I like actually want to get to know people. My friends are like always my top priority, and I generally feel like really confident about my friendships and through friendship. So I don't tend to like take the same like dramatic side because like I usually feel better about myself. I'm really forgiving because I've had to forgive myself a lot. And I'm also very patient because I can be patient with myself. So like because of my relationship with myself, it allows me to be a really good friend, and thus like friendship's really important to me. My last one, which is something that I've very newly accepted about myself, is something that like, for example, Jackie would always like try to push me to be, and I would be like, no, I'm not that, what? And that is a leader. I think that it's because I'm more of like a silent in the background leader than like a full on in your face, like rally the troops kind of leader. So yeah, it's like harder to see. I think that shows that when people come to me for advice, which happens a lot with like both my TBB friends and my friends from home, I know that I think and analyze and question things in a slightly different way than a lot of people, especially on this trip. So I've been able to be a leader in thought and be able to push my friends and to think in different perspectives, really, and to kind of just like open themselves up to a different kind of human, which is me. I have a pretty unique relationship with myself, and I think that that can be pretty inspirational for people because I am so open to myself, and I'm not afraid to share my ideas. And even though like I know that I might always be wrong because I don't necessarily believe in like a right and a wrong. I think everyone has their own right and wrong. I know that like I might be wrong, but I can able to like stick with conviction to a plan, say, that I think would be the best course of action. So yeah, I think through this process of thinking about my strengths, I realized like how surface level my them are in comparison to like my thoughts on my weaknesses, because I like have like a very deep understanding of like I do this because of this, because of this, because of this, and it roots down in insecurity. And for my strengths, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm confident. And that was like very emotional for me, because like to realize that you're someone that like is more down on yourself and like doesn't believe in yourself, I don't know, it was really sad for a little bit, because I think I thought in the past that I didn't need to focus on my strengths because I was already good at them. But I realized through this project that I was totally wrong, and you have to exercise your strengths just as much as your weaknesses, or else they'll fade to the back of your identity. And I think that that's something that really did happen with me, and realizing that and like coming to terms with it was like very emotional. One example that I'm like willing to share is that in the beginning of TBB, we're all like trying to get to know each other, and everyone was like, oh, what are hobbies? Like, what do you like to do? And there's like one kid that's like, oh, I've like built a computer. And another kid's like, yeah, I like go on walks and like study rocks. And another one's like, I play guitar. And I'm like, I hang out with my friends. So yeah, that's me. Don't have hobbies. And I kind of thought that it was because I don't have passions like everyone else. But through this project, I realized that that was like so wrong. And it's not that I don't have passions, it's that I didn't have confidence to stick with my passions, and I didn't have confidence to realize that things that I liked doing, I was good at. And as a kid, I was like one of those like extracurricular activity girls, like did everything. And I ended up like quitting dance, quitting acting, like doing way less karate. And I think that's because those are things that I genuinely like lost confidence in and then pushed aside. It's not like I'm not interested in them now. It's just that like I stopped realizing that I was good. And yeah, I think that explain to this group, it's hard because this project's so personal to me and there's like so much more to it, but I had 20 minutes to explain my process. And this is like just the surface of it all, but I guess like this made me realize that I have a lot of work to do in the future. But I had made like one of the most important transitional steps that I've like made in a really long time, in realizing like my life can go in a completely different direction and I don't need to be so hard on myself. And there's things that I am good at that I'm just not realizing and that I just don't have the confidence to try. And that actually made me really happy because I'm 19, I have my whole life ahead of me. I am going to college where there's like tons and tons of clubs and things for me to try and for me to do. I have 5 months free that I can just like explore different passions. And that's something that really excites me. And I think that this project, although maybe it doesn't seem, is like a huge turning point in my life. So going forward, I hope to be able to dig deeper into my strengths and get to the point of my strengths that I am at my weaknesses, and to continue to ask myself these questions like why, and get to like the root cause of my strengths. And then to like get a better understanding of the connections between my strengths, because my weaknesses all flow together in a very nice circle. My strengths are like, and I think that that's not how they are inside of me, and I don't think that that's how they are in reality. I think that that's how they are in my mind because I haven't thought much about them. So I'm definitely going to change myself in the future, change like the things that I'm putting myself out there for, and realizing how my strengths really, really help me achieve my goals and achieve and like be able to be the person that I want to be. So thank you for listening to my project. If you have any questions.
We have time for a few questions for Isabel.
Started in high school. How did you come to the conclusion that this would be the one that you'd go on, this particular? Yeah.
TBB? Interesting question. Well, I was supposed to do something else. Then I happened. And I had to choose like a different kind of gap year thing because I was going to travel with my friends and then like no more of my friends. So new idea. And I kind of like just found something that worked for a long time and like wasn't as expensive as maybe like other ones that I found. So it wasn't like a very deep process. It was more just like this one. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys talk about, or did you ever learn about growth mindset versus fixed mindset? Is that something you guys covered?
Not in TBB, but yes, in high school.
So I mean, the idea with the growth mindset, you come up against a challenge and it's exciting and you want to keep going. And a fixed mindset, you come against a challenge and you back away because you don't want to fail. Mm-hmm. Was there something on TBB? Can you remember a time where you came up against that wall? I mean, beyond the things that you've talked about, but you kind of worked through it. That sort of growth mindset.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have examples that like I'm not willing to share, but supposedly because it's about other people. A wall that I've reached. The thing is that like the walls that I reach are usually when I'm like realizing these bad things about myself, and in that I have like a very growth mindset. I'm like, oh my gosh, this challenge. Why am I feeling anger? I'm not like I hate him. I'm like, why do I hate him? Like, what can I do about it? And then like that brings me to like the growth, but then that also brings me to like this project, which is that like that's the area that I have a growth mindset in. I don't think that that necessarily answers your question, but like the best examples that I have are ones that would be unfair to share.
Okay, got it.
So first, thank you for an amazing presentation, and also, like, I don't know you, but I know that there's like, I can already tell you 20 different strengths that you have in that presentation. So one question I have is, I think it's not uncommon, especially for women in our society, to go towards what they're not good at and sort of stay away. So, like, what role do you think that played, and also cultures, to different places, and the role of women there? Do you think that factored into your thinking as you prepared about this?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that that's like, being a woman is something that, like, if you are a woman, you're going to feel the effects of that. I think though, through the gap year, at least the places where we went, it was like, since I was American and since I was white, that put me like higher than like what being a woman would bring me down for. So like, I didn't necessarily feel that so much, but there were like obvious things that happened. Like, for example, in Ghana, I was working with Ben and Anthony, and we definitely worked with like a pretty sexist guy who would like make comments about me, and then like I'd be like, can we hang out? And because he'd be like, Ben, Anthony, let's go. And I'm like, well, what about me? And he's just like, you're a lady. No. So yeah, I think that does play into it, especially like we read this thing that said, male, you're like, I forget like exactly what it was, but like you're so much more likely to be talking in class, and like the majority of people that are talking in class are the white males. And I think that that's something that, like, even if it's like you don't notice it, if there's mostly white males talking at you in a classroom setting, you're probably going to be more uncomfortable speaking out, just because of like the gender thing. I think it is like, I didn't realize it as much as before TBB as I did now, like huge distinction.
We have time for one more question.
I thought it was really interesting that one of the most transformative experiences happened when you were in a situation that was fairly nonverbal. Can you talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about that?
As I explained, it was a time where my focus wasn't on her, like, my focus was more than anything about building a relationship without verbal or like cultural communication. And through that, I was really focusing on myself and working on myself during our time together, because like I'm very, very social, and like I was never really alone ever for 7 months, because that was like my choice. But I think that because I was like forced to spend 4 hours farming in like silence outside in like this beautiful place, it was a time that I could really be like reflective and like hang out with myself.
Sort of like a meditation.
Yeah, so I think it was like a lot to do with that. And then also, I don't know, it's like really hard to like conceptualize it still at this point of where I'm at, but just like not overthinking her words because I didn't know her words. Things like that I just couldn't do.
If that experience had happened in the beginning of your trip, do you think that made a difference, the timing of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that Ghana was a big adjustment phase for the trip, and I was focused on very different things. Unlike a lot of people that signed up for TBB, because it's so academically rigorous, I signed up for it just to work on myself and get to travel while I'm doing it. So that was cool. But I was really focused on like emotional and social learning. And then in Thailand, I like kind of brought it to cultural learning. But in doing that, it allowed me to like really learn socially and emotionally too, because I wasn't like overthinking it like I always am. I wasn't like making it like my supreme focus. I was like learning about myself through a different outlet, and it was like a very good process for me actually, because yeah, I wasn't just like dwelling on things and creating like a cycle.